In this city, hunger takes two forms. High above the clouds, Adrian Blackwood starves in a cage of glass and steel. He is a man of absolute control, his life a series of cold, perfect decisions. He wears his power like armor, but beneath the bespoke suit and the icy gaze, there is a hollow ache, a craving for something he cannot name, something to shatter his silence. Far below, in the neon-soaked dark, Julian Moreau is burning alive. He dances on the edge of destruction, a beautiful mess of sweat, glitter, and raw nerve endings. He offers his body to the rhythm, searching for a touch that doesn't hurt, for eyes that truly see him. One is ice, freezing in his solitude. The other is fire, consuming himself to feel warmth. They are parallel lines destined to break the laws of geometry. Tonight, a door will open. Tonight, the ice will meet the fire. And the collision won't just be dangerous, it will be inevitable.
The VIP suite was supposed to be a sanctuary, a place to come down from the high of the performance, but the air inside tasted of copper and stale champagne. Jules had only slipped through the heavy oak doors to find a moment of silence. Instead, he walked into a nightmare. Through the crack in the bathroom door, the scene unfolded like a grotesque painting. The velvet curtains were drawn tight against the city lights. A bottle of expensive scotch lay shattered on the Persian rug, the amber liquid pooling like blood. And standing over the motionless form of a girl was the senator's son, his chest heaving, his eyes wild and blown wide with a chemical madness. Jules froze. He knew he should look away, but horror has a magnetic pull. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers slick with sweat, the camera lens capturing the damning tableau in high definition. Then the silence broke. A floorboard groaned under his weight. The predator's head snapped up. Their eyes locked across the room, one pair empty and murderous, the other wide with terrified realization. The hunt began. Jules ran. He burst out of the suite and scrambled down the rusted fire escape, the metal biting into his palms. The storm outside hit him like a physical blow. The freezing rain instantly soaked his vintage silk shirt, plastering the translucent fabric to his shivering skin, turning his carefully curated beauty into a wet, chaotic mess. He slipped, scraping his knee against the iron, but the pain was distant. All that mattered was the rhythm of his own heart, hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He hit the alleyway, his breath coming in ragged white clouds. The neon lights of the main street were just 50 yards away. Salvation, witnesses, noise. He sprinted blindly towards them. But escape was an arrogant illusion. A sleek black vehicle tore around the corner, its tires hissing on the wet asphalt. It didn't slow down.
It swerved, cutting off his path, blocking the exit with the aggressive precision of a shark cutting through water. The headlights blinded him, pinning him against the brick wall like a moth in a display case. Before Jules could turn back, the rear door flew open. A man stepped out into the deluge. He was a stark contrast to the filth of the alley, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a suit that cost more than Jules's entire life. He moved with a terrifying, predatory grace. He didn't run, he didn't shout. He simply closed the distance, a wall of ice and expensive wool walking through the fire. Jules tried to scramble sideways, but the man was faster. A hand, large and impossibly warm, clamped around Jules's upper arm. It wasn't a strike, it was a grounding. The grip was firm, unyielding, the fingers digging into the soft flesh to the wet silk. Jules gasped, the sound lost in the thunder. He looked up, rain dripping from his lashes, and found himself staring into eyes the color of a winter storm. There was no anger in that face, only a cold, calculating intensity that stripped Jules bare. The stranger stepped closer, invading Jules's personal space, shielding him from the wind with his own massive body. The scent of sandalwood, cold steel, and raw power washed over Jules, dizzying him. For a second, the fear mixed with something else, a sudden electric awareness of the heat radiating from the man's chest. "Get in the car," the man said. His voice was a low rumble, vibrating deep in Jules's bones. It wasn't a request. It was the only law that mattered in this alley. "Unless you want to die in the gutter tonight." Jules trembled, his defiance crumbling under the weight of that gaze. He realized then that he hadn't just been caught, he had been claimed. The drive was a fugue state of silence. Sealed inside the armored beast, the roar of the city was reduced to a distant hum. Jules sat huddled against the leather door, his knees pulled to his chest, dripping murky rainwater onto upholstery that smelled of cedar and raw money. Beside him, the stranger drove with a lethal, relaxed precision, his profile sharp against the passing streetlights. He didn't ask if Jules was okay. He didn't offer comfort. He simply transported his cargo. The car descended into a private underground garage, and moments later, a silent elevator swept them up. Not to a police station, not to a safe house, but to the sky. When the doors slid open on the 50th floor, Jules stopped breathing. The penthouse wasn't a home. It was a fortress of glass and steel piercing the clouds. It was vast, white, and terrifyingly empty. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city below, the same city that had just tried to chew Jules up. Here, the air was filtered, cool, and smelled of nothing. Jules hesitated on the threshold, acutely aware of his own filth. He was a stain on this perfection. The man walked in first, shedding his wetsuit jacket with a fluid motion. Beneath it, the white dress shirt clung to his broad shoulders, translucent enough to hint at the powerful muscles underneath. He tossed the jacket onto a pristine white sofa, and for the first time, Jules saw the leather shoulder holster. The gun was sleek, black, and very real. "Inside," the man ordered, not turning around. He walked to a marble island in the kitchen and poured a glass of water. "Don't touch the walls, don't touch the art, and don't bleed on the carpet." Jules stepped in, his sneakers squeaking on the polished concrete floor. He felt small, exposed. "Who are you?" he rasped, his voice cracking. "Are you going to kill me?" The man turned slowly. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. The movement made the muscles in his forearms flex. "If I wanted you dead, you'd be bleeding out in that alley. My name is Adrian, and until I say otherwise, you don't exist." Adrian pushed off the counter and walked towards Jules. He didn't stop in a polite distance. He kept coming until he was looming over him, forcing Jules to step back until his spine hit the cold glass of the window. Trapped. Adrian placed one hand on the glass, right next to Jules's head, boxing him in. The heat radiating from his body was overwhelming in the cool room. Jules could smell him now. Rain, expensive scotch, and something darker, like musk and danger. He looked up, his breath hitching, mesmerizing by the sharp angle of Adrian's jaw and the ruthless gray of his eyes. "Phone," Adrian demanded, holding out his free hand. "No," Jules whispered, clutching the device like a lifeline. "It's my insurance." Adrian didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply reached down. His fingers, rough and warm, brushed against Jules's trembling hand. The contact was electric, a sudden jolt that made Jules gasp. Adrian pried the phone from his grip with gentle, inexorable strength. Their skin touched for a second too long. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted. It wasn't just about control anymore. It was about the sudden, terrifying realization that Jules didn't want him to pull away. The phone was gone, and with it, the last of Jules's adrenaline. Gravity returned with a vengeance. His legs gave out. He didn't faint, he just crumpled, sliding down the glass wall until he hit the floor. The cold of the penthouse seeped into his wet clothes, turning his shivering into violent, full-body tremors. He wasn't just cold, he was crashing. The drugs, the fear, the exhaustion, it all hit at once. Adrian watched him for a second, his expression unreadable. Then he moved. He didn't call for help. He didn't look away. He crouched down, ruining the crease of his $1,000 trousers, and grabbed Jules by the chin, forcing him to look up. "You're going into shock," Adrian said, clinical but soft. "Get up. The shower is running." He hauled Jules up and marched him into the bathroom. It was a cathedral of black marble and gold, filled with steam. Adrian turned on the water, testing the temperature with his own hand. "Strip," Adrian commanded. Jules tried. His fingers fumbled with the wet, torn buttons of his silk shirt, but they were numb and clumsy. He sobbed in frustration, a pathetic, broken sound. Adrian made a noise of impatience, not anger, but resolve. He batted Jules's hands away. "Let me." Adrian's large, dexterous fingers undid the buttons with practiced ease. He peeled the wet, ruined fabric from Jules's skin like he was unwrapping something precious. When the shirt fell to the floor, Jules stood shivering, exposed, his pale skin marked with bruises from the alley and old tattoos that told stories of pain. He expected disgust. Instead, Adrian's gaze traced the lines of his ribs, the curve of his hip, dark and heavy with something that felt like worship. "Get in," Adrian murmured, his voice rougher now. Jules stepped under the spray. The hot water hit him like a physical blow, melting the ice in his veins. He closed his eyes, leaning his forehead against the black tiles. He heard the glass door open behind him. He stiffened, but Adrian didn't touch him inappropriately. Instead, a rough sponge moved over his back, scrubbing away the filth of the city. The touch was firm, possessive, and agonizingly gentle. Adrian washed him. The man who controlled the city was on his knees, soaked to the bone in his dress shirt, washing the dirt off a boy he had just met. It was the most intimate thing that had ever happened to Jules. When the water turned off, Adrian wrapped him in a massive fluffy towel, rubbing warmth back into his arms. He didn't let go immediately. He held Jules there, wrapped up and safe, pressed against his wet chest. "Better?" Adrian asked, his lips brushing the top of Jules's wet curls. Jules couldn't speak. He just nodded, burying his face in the crook of Adrian's neck, breathing in the scent of safety. He was a prisoner, yes, but for the first time in his life, he didn't want to escape. Morning broke over the city, not with a scream, but with a blinding golden silence. The storm had passed, leaving the sky a bruised purple that faded into white. Inside the glass cage, the air was different. The sterility was gone, replaced by the warmth of breath and the scent of coffee. Jules woke up in a bed that felt like a cloud. He was wearing Adrian's dry shirt, the sleeves swallowing his hands. For the first time in years, he didn't wake up afraid. He turned his head and saw him. Adrian was standing by the panoramic window, bathed in sunlight. He wasn't wearing his armor, no jacket, no tie, top buttons undone. He held a tablet in one hand, his thumb hovering over a button. He looked at the city he ruled, then he looked back at the boy in his bed. The boy who was a chaotic splash of color in his monochrome world. "They know you're here," Adrian said softly. The threat was real. The senator's men were circling below. Jules sat up, clutching the sheets. "What happens now? Do you throw me back to the wolves?" Adrian smiled. It was a small, broken thing, terrifyingly genuine. "No, I burn the forest down." He pressed the button on the tablet. Send. In that second, Adrian leaked every dirty secret of his clients to the press. He destroyed his career, his reputation, and his safety in a single heartbeat. The phone started ringing instantly. Adrian ignored it. He walked over to the bed and sat down. The weight of the world was gone, replaced by the weight of Jules's hand in his. "I ruined your life," Jules whispered, watching the news alerts light up the screen. "You didn't ruin it," Adrian replied, leaning in to press a kiss to Jules's forehead. "You just woke me up."